Hi and welcome to part 3 of this tutorial series. Today we're going to finish the sign up functionality so we can sign up users, log them in and also make it possible to log out. So we can begin with the sign up functionality. First you need a way to make it possible to click this so we can get the information from this form and send it to the backend. Everything in the backend is already handled by Joser. So we can begin by opening up signup.view. Scroll up till you find the form element, because when you submit this we want to call a function, and to do that we say v-on submit.prevent submit form. So v-on means that we listen to the submit event, and we call say .prevent because we don't want the default browser functionality, which is to submit the form. So when we call this we want to call a function called submit form. We can create that down here by first creating a script element, export default, and then in here we create a list of methods or functions, methods, and then submit form. And then in here we can say console.log submit form. Now we close this. We can test that everything is working here. Refresh, sign up, and now we call this. Perfect. So now this is functioning and we are calling a JavaScript function. So the next step then is to connect these so we can get the information from those fields into this function. So you can begin by creating a new data array here. Return username, and we want a password. And a password 2, which is for repeating it. Password 2. You can add a comma here so we can remove this error. And then to connect them, scroll up again and find the email field as a v-model username. So information you type in here now will be automatically connected to this. And then v-model password. Just copy this, paste it, and say v-model password 2. Great. And I also want a little bit of validation on this form to check that the user has filled in the username and that the password are matching. And if there are any errors, I want to show them here. Div class notification is danger, but you only want to show this if there actually are any errors. And to do that, we use a view directive called v-if errors.length. Close this div, and then in here I want to loop through the errors we are having. So create a paragraph element, v4 error in errors. And you see that here we get an error now because this is not unique. So you need to add this v-bind key, v-bind :key, pass in error here as well. And I'm going to show the error to the user by just saying error. Close that like that. So we don't have this in the data array yet, so we need to add it here. And this can just be an empty list. And then when we submit the form, we want to check if the user has filled in the username by saying if username equals empty, then we know that there are an error. Now we can just say this.errors.push. The username is missing. But to prevent that this happens multiple times if you try to submit the form, we need to reset this each time we submit the form by saying this.errors equals empty list. We can save this now and test it. Just try to submit. Okay, there's an error. Username is not defined, sorry. It should be this.username. Try again, and now the username is missing. Perfect. You can actually move this above the form a little bit here. So we have it above the sign up button instead. It looks a little bit better. Great, so now we want the same validation for the password. If this.password The password is missing, and we also want to check that they are matching. So if they are not matching this password 2, then the passwords are not matching. Great. So now below here I can check that if we have any errors in the list. If not, we can send this information to the backend. If not this.errors.length, then I know that it's okay. And then I can create a new object here, const form data. This is the information I want to send to the backend. Username, this.username, and password is this.password, because now I know that it's there and it's correct and it's matching with password 2. And then to connect to the backend, we're going to use Axios. So this will now send information to the Django REST framework, which again uses Joser to create user, which creates users for Django, which passes the information to the database. So here we can say Axios. Now we use a .post request to /API/v1/users/. And here we just pass in the form data. Great. So then, if everything is okay, we can check that by saying .then response. Response. Create a fat arrow function. And if everything there is okay, we can redirect the user to the login page. This.router.push/log-in. And if there are any errors, I want to show this to the user. And to do that, I use something called catch error. And then I check if there are an error response. And if there are, I loop through them and just push them to the errors. And I also show it in the list in the console, so I can see the error myself. And the same here, if it's error.message, we just show this and print error in the console. Great. So if I now save this, we can try to create a user, because everything here will now work because the backend handles everything for us. Okay, I got an error. Axios is not defined. So I need to go to the top here and say import Axios from Axios. Save. We can try again. Yes, now it's redirected to the login page. That means that everything is working. Perfect. So now we have Signup functionality in our project. Next step then is to create something called a Vuex store. Before I continue, I just want to say thanks to my Patreons. If you too want to support me, you will find a link to my Patreon in the description below. This is state handling to make it possible for the browser to know if the user is authenticated and also store the token for the API. The file for this was generated automatically when we created the project. So inside the state here, we want to create a user object to keep track of information about the user. Right now we just want the token. Set this to empty and is authenticated. This can be default to false. This is the information we want to keep track of. We can't change this from other files because that's not how it's work in Vue, but you need to use mutations to change this information. I want one mutation for initializing the store, so when you open up the application, we will automatically check if the user is authenticated and similar. And to do that, we can create a new function in here, initialize store, and pass in state. And then in here, I want to check if we have stored the token in the local storage of the browser. If local storage.getItem token, then I know that the user is authenticated. And the user is authenticated, we can set this token up here to the information we get from the local storage. So here we can just say state.user.token equals get this, and state.user.isAuthenticated equals true. But if we don't get this information from the browser, then the user isn't authenticated, and we can reset this to empty, and this can be set to false. So this will be called when we go into the application, but we also want one mutation for setting the token when we log in a user. Set token state, and here I also want to pass in the token. This information or function will probably make more sense when we implement them in the next part of this series. So here we want to say state.user.token equals token, and then we also know that the user is authenticated. And then last but not least, we want to remove token as well for when the user signs out. State. Now we can just copy these two and set this to false, and the token can be set to empty. So now the store is finished. We can set this task to done, and then we can create the functionality for calling the initialize store when they go into the application, and this happens in app.view. View comes with a few lifecycle hooks, and one of them is before create. So before anything is shown on the screen, this will actually be called, and we can use that to call the initialize store from the Vuex. So here to call it, we just say this.$store.commit, and commit is used to call these mutations. So here we can just say initialize store like that. And then we can create a new variable called const token to check if the token is set, because if it's set we will get this, if not we will get it empty. This.store.state.user.token. So this refers to this one up here. Then we can say if token, then we know that it exists. Then we can set the default headers for Axios, so it's automatically sending the token in when we get information back and forth to the server. Axios.defaults.headers.common authorization equals token, and then it's important to have this space here, plus token, so it creates a string with token, and then it adds the token at the end. And if not, we can just set this default to empty. Then I just need to import Axios here as well. Import Axios from Axios, and save. We can refresh now. No errors, that means that it's working. Great. So then we can actually try to use this initialize Vuex and set token assembler by finishing the login page functionality. So if I go to login.view, we can do a couple of things like we did in signup.view. We can copy the form tag, replace it here, and I can add the vModel username and the vModel password, so I can connect this to the to the JavaScript at the bottom here. We also need that, but we can copy the errors first. Copy this, paste it above the login button like that. Then I can copy this script tag. I can actually take all of it, paste it at the bottom of login.view. So I want to keep most of this, but we don't need the matching password. And I can also remove password 2 from this list, like that. I also want to reset the information about the user every time we try to submit this. So just like we reset authorization here, I want to do this at the top here, like that. And I also want to remove the token from the local storage if you have an old one. So local storage dot remove item, token, in case you have anything from a different session. And then we just create this one again, and instead of saying API v1/users, we want API v1 token /login. This will log in the user and get a token back from the server. And instead of redirecting you to the login page again, we want to redirect you to dashboard/my account. We will create this in the next step. So first here, I want to get the token from the server by saying const token equals response, which is the information we get from the server, .auth token. And then we can call the function in here for setting the token, this.store.commit set token. Then we pass in the token, and just like we do here when we set the default to Axios, I want to do the same in login there. And we can also store this token in the local storage, so refreshing will be working. And to store it in the local storage, we say local storage.set item token. Then we just pass in the token. And that's the login functionality. We can go in here to test it. The user we created. Yes, as you can see up here, I was redirected to dashboard/my account. So that means the login is also working. Perfect. So then I can set this task to done. And then I want to create a very basic my account page. So in views, I want to create a new folder called dashboard, where I want all of the views connected to the dashboard to be placed. And in there, a new file called myaccount.view. And here I can make a copy of the about page and paste it here. My account. Just remove the content and save. And to test this now, we can import this to the router. I want to import this at the bottom here to separate this a little bit. My account dashboard/my account. And then same here, paste it at the bottom. Like that. Dashboard/my account. My account. And save. So now we have the my account page here. Great. I'm not going to add more there except of the logout functionality. So we can create a button here. We can click on button at click. That means that when we click this, we want to call this function logout. Class button is danger. Logout. Close the button. I can create the script tag. Export default methods logout and console.log logout just to test that it's working. I can close the script tag, save. If I click this now, we will see logout down here in the console. Perfect. So then we need to do a few resets in here. So just like we reset everything up here, like the local storage and Axios, we can do it here as well. Like that. And also we want to call the this.store.commit remove token. So it's removed from the Axios or state as well. And then we can just redirect the user to the front page. So this.router.push/ I'm going to get an error now because I haven't imported Axios here. So import Axios from Axios. Save If I refresh now, try to click this, I'm sent to the front page and I'm not logged in anymore. Perfect. So then I can set this task as well to be done. And that was it for this part. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please click like below.